A few logistical things. Number one, please turn off your cell phones now. You could. And then bathrooms are going to be through these two doors here. There's a beautiful courtyard where the bake sale will be held. And you'll see some signs that say bathrooms. So, welcome to Spiritual Partners 9. This is great. We're very excited. A really cool title for tonight, Crazy Wisdom. For those of you who don't know Geshe Michael and Lama Christie, we thought we'd give you a little sort of taste of what they've been doing sort of as a partnership, rather than giving you an intro to them individually. Number one, they've been traveling the world giving talks. They've just come back from Eastern Europe. This summer they'll be traveling to Asia, to Mongolia, to Hong Kong, to China. They're constantly traveling around the world. They do these two talks, Spiritual Partners, here and in New York City. And basically they're constantly being asked to speak everywhere. And their schedule basically is booked up till 2010 exactly. The co-founders of Diamond Mountain University, which is training about 150 students in a 7-year program, working into a 3-year retreat eventually for 3 years. They're the authors of several books, How Yoga Works. They've done a translation of the Yoga Sutras. They've just completed a book on Spiritual Partners, which is in the works with the editor or what's the word? Publisher. A new business book is coming out, as well as a book on meditation. But I think for us, the most important aspect, I think, of what they do is their ability to put these teachings into practice and then really pass them on to the students who are us. And it's really rare, I think, for teachers to spend that much time passing on these teachings in the world. And if you look historically at some of the great lamas, they always do the same thing. It's constantly going around teaching the students, going around teaching the world, but then going into the retreats and doing the practice every day, which they're very strict about. So, without further ado, I would like to introduce Geshe Michael, Roach, and Lama Christie McNally.
Hello. Thank you for coming. It's great to be back in Arizona. We've been on a long tour of Middle East and Eastern Europe and then sort of South America. And we just got back, and it's good to be back in a nice quiet place. Tonight we're going to continue with a series of talks we've been giving called Spiritual Partners. And the idea is to acquaint people with ways to improve their relationships and bring their relationships to a higher level. If you don't have a relationship, ways to find your spiritual partner. And we're doing it the way we were trained, which is using wisdom that has come from ancient India and ancient Tibet to deepen your relationships. We were in Israel. People said, spiritual partner, does that mean I have to go to synagogue with my partner, you know? And we were assuring them that no, it doesn't mean that at all. It just means that you approach your partnership, you approach your relationship in an ancient spiritual means or with ancient spiritual methods. And so it doesn't really have to do with any particular religion or any particular faith. You simply learn a way of viewing your world and a way of viewing your relationship. And then you use a spiritual means to manage. It's sort of like spiritual management of a relationship. And it doesn't matter what your background is, what faith you came from, what country you came from. It's just wisdom that you can use for your relationship. So tonight, we thought we would share with you a special teaching. It's one of our dearest teachings in the monastery. and it's called Lojo. It comes from teachers who lived 1,000 years ago in Tibet. And these teachers were the first Buddhists in Tibet. Tibetans at the time were just yak herders. And we'll try this out. No? Tibet's, yeah? Oh, no. Better? I can't hear it. Okay. Can you hear the back? Yeah? Okay? Alright. Tibetans at the time were yak herders. They didn't even have an alphabet. And then these great yogis and masters started to show up from India, Buddhist yogis, and they would walk over the Himalayas and come into Tibet and teach them. And the first Buddhist centers in Tibet were not monasteries. They were sort of like family homes. And yogis and monks would be invited from India, and they would come into the homes and the houses, and they were sort of like small dharma centers, like 3 Jewels, Tucson. And they were, that's exactly how it started. And it was passed on from generation to generation in the same family. So the son or the daughter would become the next teacher of the center. And this is how it began. These early, very early Buddhists were called Kadampas. And they were sort of different from the way Buddhists became later in Tibet. They were more like yogis. They believed a lot in meditating a lot. They didn't write normally long philosophical books that became popular later. And they felt like you could pass wisdom on in short little like sentences or short little aphorisms. So what we thought to do tonight is relate one of those to spiritual partners. It's called Lojong Dunduma. Lojong is a famous brand of teaching in Tibet. Literally, Lo means mind and Jong means to practice. And Lojong is a special kind of teaching where you try to change your heart, try to change your mind, try to sweeten your mind and make it softer. And so we thought to take one of the most famous Lojong texts. Is called Dinduma. Dinduma means 7 sections. There are 7 famous sections of this text. And there are maybe, I don't know, there's maybe 50 or 60 different short pieces of advice in the text. And they're all tiny little sentences. And what we did was we picked out 10 or 12 of them that we thought would be especially useful for people in a relationship, in a partnership. So we'll be going through this Lojong text, which you can call crazy wisdom. So in honor of crazy wisdom, does anybody have a reading? If you don't have one, raise your hand. And then keep your hand out, and people will come around and give you one. In honor of the subject, which is called crazy wisdom, we put Einstein on the front. And we really like this. We really like this photo of him when he's sticking his tongue out. And we got a call from the printer. He said the M fell down. Do you want to put the M back up? And no, it took us a lot of time to get the M down there. And it was supposed to represent crazy wisdom. Why is it crazy? You know, there's this famous thing. You know, people read books about crazy yogis from Tibet, and these yogis are always doing weird things, like they go to somebody's house. They're traveling around the road, and some farmer puts them up at night and says, "You can sleep in my house." So they get up early and they light a match and they set the house on fire and then they leave. And why? Because they had what do you call it? They had the ability to read the farmer's mind. And they saw that the farmer had this deep attachment to their house, and that the kindest thing they could do would be to burn the house down. So people hear about crazy wisdom and they get a little bit nervous, because we're not going to burn the church down tonight or anything like that. We just thought, if you really study Lojong, if you really study this special wisdom from ancient Tibet, then I think you might seem a little crazy to other people. Like the way you behave might seem crazy. And the things you do with your partner, the things you do to strengthen your relationship might seem rather odd. We think that's fine. In a country where 50% of all marriages end in divorce, or 60, 70%, then perhaps we need something different. And perhaps the wisdom that keeps you together will be something unexpected. So, having said that, we'll start off on some lojo. So, we're going to go to page 2. And I'll ask you to repeat the Tibetan. It's just good luck. Say, Chela, Kangtu, Gom de Jun. Sorry, Gom de Jan. Okay. On the spot, turn everything that happens to practice. And that's all. And they don't tell you anything more. And this particular teaching, according to oral tradition, was passed on for 1,000 years without being written down. And then finally it was put down in writing by Geshe very famous Tibetan, about 1,000 years ago. Exactly 1,000 years ago. How does this apply to your partner? How does this apply to your life with your partner? Tela is difficult to translate. Tela means on the spot, in the moment, at the exact moment that something happens with your partner. Then turn it into spiritual practice. Turn it into something deeper. Right? So I'm thinking we had 2 weird plane experiences coming here, you know. And one was we got stuck in Miami with American Airlines. 900 flights were canceled, so we were one of the 900 flights. And they made us wait for 8 hours. Then they put us on the plane. And then after an hour on the plane, they said, okay, everybody get off the plane. And then we all got off the plane. And then we said, we're hungry, can we go to dinner? Is anything going to happen? They said, no, you've got 2 hours. Go to dinner, come back. So we went to another terminal for dinner, we came back, and the place is empty, and there's one flight person left. And they said, oh, the flight just left, an hour early. And, only 9-hour delay instead of 10-hour delay. And so at that moment, you start to get angry. You and your partner, we were together. It happened again, by the way. But that's another story. Well, I'll tell you the story. That was like yesterday. So we're at, we come up to the desk. This is a Continental. I'm not supposed to mention names, right? We go up to the desk and we say, you check in at the gate. So we went to the gate. And we were feeling really happy because we got to the airport on time, which is really weird. And we got to the gate and they said, well, we're here to get our seats, but we definitely have to sit together, And the lady says, forget sitting together, you don't have any seats at all. And we're like, well, we bought this ticket like a month ago. Yeah, but you don't have a confirmed seat. We said, well, are we in standby? No, you don't have a seat. And we're like, well, what do you mean we don't have a seat? We bought the ticket, And they said, well, we overbooked the flight by 2 people, and you're the 2 people. And we're like, you sold our seats? And they said, yeah, we sold your seats, and we got your money too, And we're like, and the lady is just like, she could just care less. She thought it was so funny, And I won't tell you the whole story, but anyway, what this crazy wisdom says, in the moment, right? You're there with your partner, and you could use it as an excuse to scream at the people behind the desk. You see, you could start making a scene, right? And maybe you would get what you want. You see, sometimes you scream and you get what you want. Sometimes you scream and they just keep laughing at you, So, what would a yogi do? What would a person studying Lojong do? How would they see this situation? Right away, in the moment, Chela is very important here. He didn't say, Kangtuk Gomdijang. He didn't say, take whatever happens to you and turn it into meditation or practice. He didn't say that. You said tela. Tela means instantly. Instantly turn it into some practice, right? So what does that mean? Especially with things that go wrong. Especially things that happen bad. Especially with a problem that pops up between you and your partner. We say you have like 5 seconds. The first 5 seconds of the problem are crucial. You have like 5 seconds to make something special out of it. You see? You have about 5 seconds in which you will either decide to make it something special, or you will decide to just follow your old habits, right? And you'll start complaining and whining at the lady at the desk, right? You have very little time. In the study of karma, karma means you will start thinking something in those first 5 seconds. If what you think is negative, then your planning sees to have more bad airline flights. You see? If in the first 5 seconds you begin to conceive of the situation as a problem, you have already created hundreds of more problems. You see, according to the laws of karma, karma is mostly mental. 90% of karma is mental. It doesn't matter if you don't get a chance to scream at the lady behind the desk. If she suddenly turns and gets on the plane or something, you have still made karma in your mind. You see, you have a few seconds in your mind to stop the cycle. You see, there's a cycle. You get thrown off the flight, and then your natural reaction is to start screaming at the lady, start saying something bad to the lady behind the counter, right? That negative karma, that negative thinking, that almost kind of violence to that person is planting seeds in your mind to have your next flight canceled, you see? So you have like 5 seconds at the very beginning, as the thought starts to form in your mind that this is a problem, and that she's bad, and that Continental Airlines is bad, you see? As the thought begins to form, tela, in the instant, immediately you have to think, no, I'm going to change things, you know? I'm going to think of it a different way. What way? Think how? I don't know about you, but all of the greatest things in my life have come through some kind of tragedy, you see? I became a monk because my mother, my father, and my brother all died in the same year, you know? And I could become a monk and I could learn these things because my teacher his house was bombed by the Chinese and he escaped over the Himalayas. And 1 million people in his country were killed. You see, I'm here because of tragedies, right? I got the most precious things in my life because of great tragedies that happened in my life. And I think if you look back on your life and you look at what brought you to the greatest things in your life, it's not that often some great inspiration or some great teacher or some great friend. I think most often you are forced into your spiritual realizations by some kind of disasters or some kind of huge problems, you see? And then it takes years to realize that the disaster was what made your life worthwhile, you see? The disaster is what pushed you to a higher level. So years later you look back on your life and you say, oh, I'm so grateful, you know, that this guy used to beat me up in high school, or I'm so grateful that my parents passed so suddenly, and it pushed me to a higher plane in my life, you see. So what this Lojong is saying, what this verse is saying is, don't wait like 5 or 10 years to figure out the bad things that happen to you have some deeper meaning, you see. There are tremendous forces at work in the world. There are many special beings walking in this world. And they just might see that you need to have your house burned down. You see? And if your house burns down, then don't start whining or complaining in your mind. Like immediately think, What can I learn from this? How can I take this to a higher level? If you have a problem with your partner, if something comes up with your partner, tell out in an instant. Then don't start complaining. Don't start whining. Don't start inventing some kind of problem in your mind. Like, jump on it right away and say, I wasn't supposed to get on the plane today, you know? Something's going to happen in the airport today. Like, don't worry about the plane. The plane left already. You know, don't sit there and complain about Continental Airlines, you know? Like, forget the plane. Not only that, there must be some reason why they left you in Miami. You see? There must be some higher reason why they left you in Miami. Can you find it? Then your life becomes like an Easter egg hunt. You know, like, you're stuck in Miami for 8 more hours. You know, like, that's the hardest place in the world to find something meaningful. That's some reason why you were left there, you know? But treat life like an Easter egg hunt, you know? Like, something bad happens. And say, oh, higher forces are pushing me to some special goal. What is it? You know, what's the point? Why is my partner yelling at me today? You know, why does my partner have a problem with the way I do the toilet seat? You know, is there some deeper thing going on here? You know, and think to yourself. And instead of whining about life, instead of going through life seeing problems, you can just as well see Easter egg hunts. And then it's just like life becomes fun. You see, like, find the hidden point behind the latest disaster in your life and your relationship. The point is there, okay? We don't say in Buddhism, this is how we differ from every other relationship advice you ever got. We don't say that the problem was real. We also don't say that the opportunity is real, right? We say both the problem and the opportunity exist at the same time in the cancellation of the flight. Both the problem and the opportunity exist in the cancellation of the flight at the same time. You have a choice. You can focus on the problem and it will exist. You can focus on the opportunity and it will exist. Both exist in the cancellation of your flight. Okay? How you take it is up to you. That's the first logic.
So, can you hear me? So these early Kadampa masters, these early yogis, would actually, the reason that they called them crazy is that they would actually go out and search for problems. You know, they'd like, bring them on, you know, the more the merrier. Cancel 20 of my flights. I don't care. I'm a yogi, you know, and like I can find something, I can change it into something wonderful. You know, so as you get better and better at these practices, it becomes even more and more crazy. You know, but at the beginning, you know, you do well enough to take the problems that you already have and transform them into something special. So we'll go on to page 3. Say Yenlak, Nyampa, Jumija. Yenlak, Nyampa, Jumija means don't speak of, well, it says it here, speak not of what was broken. Right? This is talking about when you start to see faults in your partner. When you start to see faults in your partner, what do? Well, keep your mouth shut, first and foremost. Keep your mouth shut. Don't point them out. Don't try to be a help and say, oh, I see you have that problem with anger. You know, it's not your job to point out your faults in your partner, right? Once you start learning about karma and emptiness, you start to want to learn how to put it into practice. Then, as partners, you start to want to try and keep certain visions, certain pledges to each other. For instance, people that we know have gotten married recently have taken certain special pledges to see the other person as a holy divine being, an enlightened teacher, an angel, you could say, that's come to them to guide them to enlightenment. And that was their marriage vow. You know, they pledged to promise to try as hard as they could to see this other person as their teacher 24/7, you know, 365 days of the year, you know, for the rest of their life and any lives thereafter. Because, you know, it's a little tricky in Buddhism. You don't just take a vow for your lifetime. You take your vow for lifetimes. So you got to find a way to meet them up in the next life. You guys can arrange that. But in any case, you start to learn right after you take this vow how difficult it is to constantly see your partner as a holy being, as a special being. And so there are certain techniques in the Buddhist tradition to try and train your mind to get yourself to think this way. You keep a special journal, you keep a little book, and every so often, every couple hours throughout the day, you stop and you think, how well have I been seeing Geshe Michael here as a holy enlightened teacher come to take me to enlightenment? And you write down a very specific plus, a very specific minus. You know, you just write down a little note about how you're doing in the last few hours. And that keeps your awareness in check. So Geshe Michael and I have actually done this little diary thing together for 10 years, yeah? And it's been really good. It was very productive at the beginning. And then something started to happen with our book. Something started to happen with our little partner book. You see, because we use the same partner book. So whoever does it first, the other person reads the person's part, you know, the other person reads it when they're doing theirs, right? So then it started to become something other than your own private little journal. It starts to become, we're not allowed to speak of what was broken, right? But we can write about it. You know? So I'll give you an example. It's just a hypothetical example, of course. Nothing to do with reality. So Geshe Michael writes something like, karma to see my partner being very bossy in yoga today. And of course I read it. And of course it pisses me off. So in this like really irritated way, I write my own little thing back to him, right? Karma to try and help my partner with yoga and have totally, you know, and have someone be totally unresponsive and unreceptive to my help, you know. And so, you know, then you start to twist the Dharma a little bit. You start to twist what the original purpose of the vow was for. Because we're not getting to, neither of us in that particular book entry is getting anywhere. I mean, it's completely useless. It's just about telling the other person what you think is wrong with them, right? Instead of focusing on your own mind and focusing on what's wrong with you. Like, oh, maybe the irritation that I got when I read because I think he's doing it on purpose, of course. Irritation that I got when I read the vow, and watching it come up and then trying to deal with that in my own mind. Like, yes, I still have irritation. Yes, I still have anger. And what are you going to do about it? And how do you purify it? And the focus starts to turn. And I've seen this with other people who have been trying to keep this practice for a good deal of time. They start to try and keep the other person's vows for them. You know, oh, don't you have something to write in your book? Even if they're not sharing books, they find a way to do it. They find a way to judge the other person. You can never judge what's in another person's mind. Unless you're the type of person who can read everybody's mind, and even then it gets a little tricky. You can never know for sure what another person's motivation will be. And this is the thing about the crazy yogis. You could be living with a crazy yogi. They could be next to you all the time. They could be burning your house down all the time, in little ways, because that gets old after a while. They find new and interesting ways to set you off. So you're living with this crazy yogi, and you have no idea how highly realized they are. You have no idea how much they are trying to push you to get to the state of enlightenment as quickly as possible. How you see your own partner is empty. We say it's empty. It's available. You can see your partner as irritated with you, or you could see your partner as this totally pure being of light, and it's your choice. Now, how do you get them there? By planting seeds in your mind. By planting seeds in your own mind. Two kinds of seeds, right? To see your partner, a totally perfect, enlightened angel being of light, first you have to purify your own mind. You have to work on purifying your own mind. You have to work on catching your own irritation when it pops up. And thank you so much for helping me find it. And then, secondly, you have to train yourself to see them as a pure being, because that also will plant seeds in your mind to see them more and more purely in the future. All right, so you hold the line. You see them do something that maybe if you had done it, you might have to write it in your book, right? Like maybe they yelled at the airline stewardess. Or maybe they didn't, but just, And then you check yourself. You hold the line. This is a holy angel, enlightened being. What are they trying to teach me at this moment? Right? And you don't let yourself drop that ever. You don't let yourself ever let go of that view. It's difficult. It's difficult. That's why they call it, he hates this translation of Lojong, but that's why they call it training the mind. It's conditioning yourself over and over to a certain, you've had habitual responses to think of people and things as normal for lifetimes upon lifetimes. Over and over, you've had these habits ingrained in your mind, and now you're just starting to change it a little bit. You're just starting to say, maybe it's not normal. Maybe this person is a special person. But it's like going against the tide of millions of years of conditioning. And so it's hard. But the more you do it, the easier it gets. So I've been on this path. I was training my mind. I was developing my good heart, which is how Geshe Michael likes to translate Lojong. I said, I'm holding the line, Geshe Michael is a holy enlightened being, and every single thing that this being does is there to bring me to enlightenment and teach me, and, I'm holding the line. Enlightened being, enlightened being, enlightened being. We're in 3-year retreat. And, I don't know exactly, we were sitting on the bed, and we were reaching to get a cup of tea, or pour a thermos of tea. And for some strange reason, because I was sitting right next to him, his hand flies out and hits me right across the face, right? Right across the face. And we're not talking at this point because the 3-year retreat, we're in silence. But we have this very elaborate form of hand sign language communication. So he signs to me. It was an accident, right? Now, What's the problem with that? While I'm holding the line that this is a totally enlightened being, what is the problem? No, you just feel free. It's not a rhetorical question. There are no, it can't be an accident. He's an enlightened being. Why did he just slap me across the face? He's an accident, you know. So then, you get this thing where like you're mad anyway. Because they're an enlightened being, you're mad. You can't win either way. You know, and then you see it's like no matter what you do, the mental afflictions, the negativities that are in your heart are going to come out no matter what. Whether you see them as enlightened, whether you see them as normal, either way the irritation and anger is going to come. Because he was an enlightened being and I was pissed off at him. Why would he do that? And then lie and say it was an accident? That's literally what I was thinking. Really, I'm totally honest with you. And you know, but there's a jump in the logic that I missed. There's a jump in the logic that I sort of missed there. If someone is a totally enlightened being, the only reason that they're there next to you is to get you also enlightened and in a state of complete bliss as quickly as possible. So every single thing that they do, is done specifically to help you. Specifically to get you there as fast as possible. So, okay, I was accidentally slapped across the face so that I could get enlightened as quickly as possible. You know, it brought me higher. And at that point, there's a line you need to hold. You just need to trust. You just need to surrender to it. Right? And that's the crazy part of it all. That's the crazy wisdom part of it all. Right at that moment, when you're going, that was uncomfortable and I can't see why anyone slapping me across the face would ever get me higher in my spiritual evolution, but I don't know everything. I can't see the future. You can. I trust you. I trust you. And then you see you've just made a leap. You made this beautiful leap in your spiritual evolution. Right there, in that moment. And it's crazy. Totally crazy. And it totally works.
Page 4. It says, Chanmagu. Say Chanmagu. Chanmagu means give up laying ambushes. Give up laying ambushes. What's that mean? There were actually two lojong here. One was something about, you know, if your partner gets mad at you, don't get mad back. He said no, if they criticize you, don't criticize them back. Yeah. Give it. And you know, we sit in coffee shops in Tucson and we decide who's going to get which lines, you know. And I said, I don't feel too good about, I mean, anger. I'm not such an anger expert, you know. Like I don't usually get angry in the moment, except that airline stewardesses stole my seats again. But I have a different specialty. I have kunzin. Like I was trained in kunzin. We were discussing. I think I was trained in kunzin from a child. Say kunzin. So kunzin is different from shedang. Shedang means anger, or cho, or kongcho. They all mean anger. Kunzin is different. Kunzin is an advanced form for special people. And kunzin means you don't just get angry. You hold the anger for days. You know, and you let it simmer in your heart. And I think kunzin people, I'm a kunzin person. I'm not such a shedang person. Kunzin person, they can hold anger in their heart and they can look happy or friendly for days. You know, like on the outside they can be smiling and look very like a llama. And but then on the inside, they're called sikpa is another word for kunzin. It means their fuse is burning on the inside, right? But they maintain this really calm outer exterior, and they're very friendly to everybody, but they've got a plan, you see? Kunzin has a plan. So let's say that you were doing yoga with your dear spiritual partner.
My boss.
And you got up into a half moon, I think it's called, with one leg up, and and they said, no, they're like slapping you on the hand. You're like trying to concentrate on keeping your balance, right? They're like slapping you on the hand. Put your palm flat on the ground. You're up on one leg, your other leg is up in the air, You're an old man. You can hardly do this thing, and you're about to fall down anyway. And they're slapping you on the hand, Get your palm down, And so you're very Lama-like, and you nod wisely. Yeah, I knew that. And, I was just seeing if you would correct me, and then you put your palm down flat. But in your mind, the kunzin starts. In your mind. Then you start making a plan. 3 days from now, during yoga, when she does that, what's that squat thing, and you gotta bend over and put your elbow over the knees? Utkatasana, but with a twist? Parinvrta Utkanasana. Anyway. So she always has her knee in the wrong place. Like, the knees always aren't parallel. So I'll wait for 3 days. And she won't remember that I've got kunzin. She won't remember that I'm cooking this anger for 3 days. She won't connect it at all to slapping my hand while I'm balancing, And then I'll shove her knee, and I'll get back at her, So then for a kunzin type of personality, which is I can do it for years actually, and so then you have to really concentrate, like during the day and during the evening, you have to keep reminding yourself of your plan to get back at your partner in 3 days' time. And you know the thing, like it's much more fun if it's exactly the same as what they did to you. I was thinking of all these examples, but I can't tell you any of them. But something exactly, whatever wrong your partner did to you, you're gonna make it so perfectly parallel back to them that they might even get it, that you're retaliating, you see? And I guess you could call it long-term retaliation plan, or something like that. Then I don't know, with me, oftentimes by the second day I forget. Like I just forget my plan, like the anger, it does stay longer than most people, I think. I think my anger tends to stay longer. And it simmers for longer. But 3 days is a long time to try to remember to push someone's knee, And maybe after the second day or going into the second night, it just slips my mind, And then I'm meditating, and I'm trying to meditate on what I was supposed to do back to her. And I can't remember anymore, I'm trying to concentrate, like, I'm focusing my whole meditative concentration on a single point, like, what was it she did that got me so upset, And I think you'll find that oftentimes you can't remember the next day. It was really important, and what they did to you was really, really bad, and then the next night you just can't remember, and you feel frustrated because you wanted to get them back, but you can't remember what it was, you see? So the idea is, from your own experience, given enough time, you forget the wrongs, the harms that other people do to you, Time heals all wounds, except for your high school boyfriend. But eventually you forget what it was that you were unhappy about, you see? So why not just accelerate the process, you see? Why not do 12 hours of simmering anger and then set your alarm clock And then after 12 hours of simmering anger, it goes off and you say, okay, I'm not angry anymore. And then maybe you can shorten it to 11 hours, or 10 hours, or 10 minutes, right? Like after your partner does you some huge wrong, like trying to get your palm flat on the floor, then you could set the alarm for 10 minutes. Just be angry for 10 minutes, you know. And when the alarm goes off, you forgive them, right? Then why not make it 1 minute? You know, save the 9 minutes for other thoughts. I mean, there's better stuff to think about than how she pushed your palm, you know. Like you could think about going to jump juice after yoga, which is what I was focusing on today during yoga. And that's a lot more positive and it's more fun. And it doesn't make any bad karma, you see? The problem with kunzin type of anger, the simmering anger, we say, you know, our tradition says that for every single second of simmering anger that you allow in your mind, 65 bad things will happen to you. For every second of anger you allow to simmer in your mind, 65 negative things will happen to you. You see? You'll get your palm pushed down 65 times. Just for being angry about it for 1 second. So you could say that in our tradition, a big blow-up right after she pushes your palm is better than a simmering anger. You see? So I think we should be, in this partner talk, we should be encouraging you to have big blow-ups. Right after your partner does that horrible, unforgivable thing to you. You know, just have a blow-up right away and scream at them. Or push their knee just anytime. You know, like that. And don't wait for a day or two, you see, because then you make a lot less bad karma. What is the bad karma? I mean, what happens is the bad karma. You plan your retaliation, right? You plan. You're going to do this really significant statement. You're going to do something exactly like what they did to you. And they're going to have this epiphany. They're going to say, oh my God, you know, that must really bother Geshe Michael when I push his palm down, you know? And then they're probably never going to do it again. That's what your plan is, right? That's what your hope is, right? And, but karmically, what happened is, the minute you start to plan your retaliation, you plant more incidents where they're pushing your palm down. You see? You don't get rid of the problem. You plant the seeds for the problem to happen like 65 more times. You see? By getting angry at a person who supposedly hurt you, and especially by planning what you're going to do back to them, you guarantee that they will do the same thing over and over again. Then when you do your big retaliation thing, you know, and you think they're going to learn some significant lesson about how much it hurts, it doesn't do anything. They don't get it, you see? And then there keeps being this problem over and over again because your plan for retaliation has planted this seed. Human beings have been retaliating to harm done against them for 50,000 years. Human beings for 50,000 years have attempted to respond to violence with violence. You know? It's ingrained in us. We're the movies, the TVs, the stories, the songs, everything in our culture, everything about the heroes we read about, they're all responding to violence with violence. You know, we are brainwashed into thinking that responding to violence with violence will somehow stop violence. You know, fight for peace, right? It's a word. It's an expression in our language. Fight for peace. You see, and we have believed it for 50,000 years of cultural training. It's deep, deep inside us. We use it with our partners and we use it with Iraq. You see, it's the same thing. You can't use it with Iraq and then not try it with your partner. If you believe that on an international level, you will do it with your partner and you will make the same mistake. And then violence will spiral upwards. You see, more and more violence will be created. So you're give up the ambush anyway, right? Either you're going to forget your retaliation plan, which is what mostly happens. You get over it, right? In a day you get over it and you forget to retaliate. Or you just forget what they did to you, right? So just let it go now. Let it go in the 10 seconds after they push your palm down on the floor. Get irritated for like a second, 2 seconds, then just let it go, because you're going to let it go anyway, right? In a day, in a week, in a year, you're going to let it go. You're going to forget what they did to you anyway. Eventually, you're going to forgive everyone who ever hurt you. So why collect the extra bad karma of holding it, right? Why wait a day or a year? Just forgive them right away. Forgive them in the instant that they hurt you. Forgive them immediately and get in the habit. Karmically, what happens if you forgive in the instant of a harm, the harms in your life will stop, right? Ahimsa pratishtaya tatsalidao vairagyaga. Violence stops in the presence of those who give up violence. Violence stops in the presence of those who give up violence. It's a Yoga Sutra, right? So, with your partner, forgive the wrongs they do you within a second, because you're going to forgive them anyway, eventually. You're going to go out to dinner anyway in the next year sometime and have a good time. So just give it up now. Give it up in the moment. And it becomes a lot happier. Okay? Easy to say, hard to do.
Okay, we'll do one more verse and then we'll take a break. Page 5. Seizo, Kel, Lang, Lamijo. Zo means yak, a female yak. Do you want to do? Geshe Michael has a great impression of female yak. Everybody want to hear it?
Yeah. My mama taught me this, okay?
It's really cute. Very cute, right? We didn't even plan that one. So, Geshe Michael's so brave, I say, want to do an impression of female yak in front of like how many people I don't know. He just goes for it, Anyway, so, Kel means load. Lang means a milk cow. And then the other one means don't place it. So really this verse means don't place a yak load on top of a milk cow. But we didn't quite think that captured the essence of the verse. Captured the meaning of it. So Geshe Michael came up with load your own truck, no passing the buck, which is exactly what this verse means. Don't put the load on the wrong person. Don't put the load on the wrong person. So, say you're having a moment with your partner where they don't seem very angelic to you. It's hard to imagine maybe, but maybe they seem downright unfriendly at this point and not angelic at all. So, whose fault is it? Whose fault is it? Is it the person's fault who's looking downright unfriendly? Or is it your fault? You have a couple choices here. We say, I'll give you an example. Last summer we went to France to do some research about there's a lot of Arab things happening in France, and we thought it would be a good doorway into the Muslim community because we want to try and do something there to promote peace in the world, because we think that there's a big problem there, obviously. So we were in France, and we had just gotten off the plane, and we went to Paris, And the hotel owner directed us to a nice Moroccan restaurant that was just about to close, but he called them because he was best friends with the guy, and they stayed open for us. And so we go to this beautiful side street and go into this lovely Moroccan restaurant that you would never have found as a tourist, only like this guy could have told us. And there's all these cute couples having dinner, and there's all these cushions. You know, it's very Moroccan. There's like, you know, little cloths on the ceilings and on the walls, and lots of cushions and lots of, like, I don't know. Anyways, very beautiful to me. And I was like, oh, how nice. There was a fireplace, and what a cozy romantic dinner, right? So, so we sit down, and my partner is feeling very untalkative. Very, very untalkative today. And in this dinner. And I'm looking around, and there's all these other couples, and they're all talking. And they're all having a great time, and we're not, you know? And I'm like, do you want to hear about the first pension lama? I was reading this Mahamudra thing, it's really cool, and you know, that's what I get. I get it, And so I tried a different tack. They said, oh, let's ask him about his work. He always likes to talk about his work. So I'm like, so what have you been working on? Oh, the same old stuff. You know, and I'm like, oh no, that's going to be a really fun dinner. And so then I started to get a little, I don't know, like frustrated about it. And I started to discuss this problem. And Geshe Michael and I don't discuss our problems because we know that where they come from is you, and it's all karma and stuff like that. But see, in the moment, after you've gone off a long flight, you know, this 12-hour flight, and you're a little bit weak in your karma knowledge, you know, you fool yourself and you think, oh, I'm going to discuss it, you know. So I try to discuss it. I'm like, you know, a lot of other people, a lot of other couples are in this restaurant, and they're all talking to each other. Maybe we could talk to each other too. It just didn't work, you know? Like, it just didn't work. I ended up talking to the people next to me. That was fun. I had a really good time. We met these two French people. They showed us where this other cool club was, and we're going to start this yoga dance thing, and it was all their fault. And it was all because Geshe Michael didn't talk to me at dinner. So, I mean, there's a purpose to all things. I never would have reached out to my neighbors if I had actually had some intelligent, lively conversation going on at my own table. So, but, you know, the point of this is that whose problem was it when I was sitting at the table and someone was being uncommunicative and kind of, I don't know, unfriendly, labeled unfriendly, right? Whose problem was it? It was my problem, right? It was my karma. That's what we say. It's my karma to see the person acting in an unfriendly way. So there's no need to ever discuss anything with your partner. There's no purpose for it because you know exactly where it came from, and because discussing it in the present moment will do no good. You're just going to talk around in circles. It doesn't affect, you can't affect the world in the present moment. You can't affect the world in the present moment. You have to plant the seeds for what you see. You plant the seeds now, you see a different person across the table from you in the future. You see someone who likes to talk to you in the future, you know? So, it's my karma, right? It's my karma. So, you have loaded your own truck, right? You've not put the blame on your partner. But then there's another problem, and it's very, very funny. We did discuss who was going to do the verses, and Geshe Michael says, you have to do this one. And I said, why? And he's like, because you have a problem with this one. I said, okay, so I'll tell you. I don't have a problem with the first half. I don't have a problem with what we just talked about. Like, I know that the uncommunicative stuff is coming from me. I know that it's my own karma. I know it's seeds that I planted in the past from being uncommunicative myself to either him or to another person. I know all that. I mean, I've been trained over and over and over, you know. So I don't usually discuss, unless I've just gotten off a 12-hour flight. I don't even try it. It doesn't work, and I know that. But then there's this other thing where you just don't do anything about it. You just let it sit there. Like, it's my karma. We go to India, and this is the thing about India. They're like, oh, I was born into a low caste, it's my karma. You know, and they're just content. They're like supposed to be content with it. Like, it's my lot in life, and that's just the way I was dealt, and it's just my karma from my past life, and there's nothing I can do about it, so I might as well just sit here and do nothing, and just relax, and not fight it so much, because it's my karma. And that's not what karma is about. You know, you've gone halfway there. It's my karma, and then you just relax. No, there's a responsibility that comes when you know that something's your karma. If you want your relationship to work, you have to go one step further. Instead of just letting go and saying, oh, it's just my karma, you actually have to go into your mind and change it. You have to, it's a human tendency, I think, to avoid issues. And I'm quite good at it, I think. That's why I'm doing this first. But, you know, it's just to let it go and not to deal with it. I'm tired. I just got off a 12-hour flight. I don't want to think about why he's being uncommunicative. I'm going to let it go because I'm a good Buddhist. but I just don't want to think about all that karma stuff right now. And then you just forget about it. And then what happens is your relationship starts to get into a rut. You start to keep seeing the same problems over and over because you never fix them. And that's what a rut is that you just don't fix your problems when they first pop up. And you don't fix them when they pop up a second time. And they start to get stronger and stronger. And you start to get more and more used to them. And then you don't even think about fixing them anymore because that's just the way we are. And then you're in a partnership that you don't like. Then you're in a partnership that you're not happy with. And it's just because you're lazy. That's me. So, what to do? What to do about it? Okay. I am getting unresponsiveness from my partner. I am getting not wanting to interact with me from my partner. Where is this coming from? And you do an active search in your mind for the thing that you did last week, last month, yesterday, that resembles this behavior. Right away. Right away. Okay. Oh yeah, I remember. A couple mornings ago, I just completely ignored him. Like, you know, and you stop, and you do the work. You do the karmic work. You do the karmic correlation work. Where did this come from? Where did this unresponsiveness come from? It had to have come from something that I had done recently. And I go back, and I think, yeah, I'm not so good at talking to people in the morning. I'm not so good at smiling in the morning. I actually tend to ignore my partner in the morning, you know? So it's not surprising that when I want to talk to somebody, they're not there to talk to me. Because I've been doing it over and over and over. And maybe I could fix it. And maybe the partnership will change. And then you take the responsibility completely. Instead of just saying, instead of A, blaming your partner, or B, just saying, oh, it's my karma and letting it go, you fully take the responsibility and you say, yeah, it's my responsibility and I will fix it. And I will make this partnership work all by myself. Because it's only you that can make your partnership perfect. For you. It's only you. And take that control. Take that responsibility on your shoulders and see what you can do with it. See how perfect you can make your partnership. Yeah. So we're going to take a break. And I hear there's a really amazing bake sale in the other room. Is that true? Is that true? So this bake sale is in the courtyard. We can't take food in here, right? Can we take food in here? Let's not take food in the church. How's that? Let's keep it in the courtyard. That's usually how people prefer it. So you're going to all go out and you're going to buy a cookie or a cupcake or something amazing, and you're going to pay a huge heap load of money for it because the bake sale is actually going to raise money to send young students from our university to Sera Monastery in India to study. And they go and they get this really amazing lineage from the Tibetan lamas, and then they come back and they teach everybody here. And that's the way that we're actually continuing our Western lineage, is through this connection between Sera Monastery in India and our Diamond Mountain University here. So it's a really beautiful opportunity for young people, and of course, since they're young people, they have absolutely no money, and India air tickets are very expensive, so if you would just go and pay like $100 for a cookie, that would be great, and get some young child to India, that will come and teach you Tibetan later, and we'll teach you all the higher things about karma and emptiness. So please support that.
We'll be sitting here, and if you'd like to come up and just say hi, and introduce yourself to us, we'd like to get to know you, or if you have a personal question that you'd like to ask about your relationship, feel free. If you're going to see us in the next few weeks at Diamond Mountain, then please let the other people come first, who don't get to see us usually. And try to remember that there's probably other people who won't get to see us if we spend too long with each person, okay? I need to see a few people in the connection. Scott V, Ness, Rob Ho, Ted and Andrea, Ben and Christina.
Rob Ho's
and Rob Ressinger, Rebecca, Christine, Sham, Chinzam, and Ningbo. Just a few people.
I've also just been notified that there's a new book for sale. It's called The Eastern Path to Heaven, and and this is a book that Geshe Michael and I wrote for people on the Christian path to use this knowledge of karma and emptiness in their own Christian practice. So if you are a Christian yourself, or if you know anybody who is a Christian but has like meditative leanings or leanings towards learning about the Eastern path to spirituality, then this is probably a nice book that you can take a look at. I need to see Tim. That's, I don't know, a big list. Yeah?
Okay, we'll start again. I'm going to do page 6. And I'd like you to repeat the Tibetan, okay? Please say Nyomo.
Nyomo.
Kamche.
Kamche.
Songla Jan.
Songla Jan.
Whatever's your biggest negative emotion, you should attack that one first.
Yeah.
Okay? So in a relationship, you have like 6 problems with your partner, right? And then you have to try to figure out what's the biggest one. It's like when I was a kid, we used to have gang fights, like not big ones, but small gang fights. And there's always this principle with the opposite gang. You get your biggest guy, which is my big brother, John. You get him to punch out the head of the other gang. And then the rest of you don't have to fight. Because, actually my brother used to get punched out, but then we would run. And then, you go for the ringleader, you go for the biggest problem. And you attack that one. And then the rest of the problems fall because most of them depend on the big problems. So if you're in a gang fight, you always go for them. Or if you're like at the counter at the airline and they're not helping you, what do you say? No, you talk to the manager, and you go after the big shots, like that. In yoga, we were just teaching in several yoga centers around the world, but there's a big thing about knots in your body, that there are inner knots in your body, and the knot in your heart is the worst one. The knot in your inner channels of your heart is the worst one. So they teach you in the scriptures, they say, go for that knot first, head for the heart knot first, because that's the worst one. And if you fix the worst one, then the other ones get fixed automatically. So with your partner, the principle is figure out what's your biggest problem with your partner and attack that one first. You know? Like what's the biggest emotional problem that you have towards your partner? You know, do you tend towards anger? Or are you a jealousy expert? You see? Like what's the emotion that you have, the negative emotion that you have that most hurts your relationship, you know, that most makes your relationship difficult? And then don't get distracted. Don't try to clean up all your negativities at once, because there's too many. The Tibetans say 72,000, right? Don't go after all of them at once. Pick the big guy. Go after the big guy. And if you knock the big guy down, then the smaller ones will dissolve. If you work on the heart chakra, if you release the knot of the heart chakra, then the other knots are easy to release, you see? So go after the biggest problem. Go after your biggest problem. Go after your most negative emotion, right? Then there's this joke in Tibetan, you know? How are you going to know what your worst negative emotion is? How are you going to know what your worst personal quality is, right? Why? Why do they ask the question? Because we all tend to ignore our worst one. You see? We tend to not even recognize the most negative thing within us, right? We don't want to admit it, we don't want to face it, right? So we always make a joke that when you ask somebody their worst emotional negativity, they'll always say their second worst one. They'll always tell you their second worst one. Why? They're not even aware of their worst one. All of your friends are aware. Your partner is especially aware. Even people you don't know very well are aware, you know? And you're not aware. Like, I'm not aware, right? So we say, a big step here is to ask around a little bit. Send around a questionnaire. You know, what's Geshe Michael's worst habit, mental habit, you know? What's his worst habit? And then people can fill it out anonymously and leave it at your door or something, you know? And then maybe through consensus, maybe if 20 people say the same thing, you can take it as possibly true. Or just a collective delusion of 20 of your friends, you see? But ask, you know? I think it's rare to ask the people you're close to. It's rare to say, what's my worst problem? You know, what do you see as my worst problem? And don't do it in a low self-esteem way. You know, don't do it in some way you're going to go home and beat yourself up for the next 6 years. You know, not like that. You want to know what's the biggest guy, so you can fight with the big guy first, right? And not waste your time with the little guys, right? You want to knock out the leader of the other gang. So you have to do some research into what's your biggest negativity. And your partner knows. And your partner's probably told you a lot of times. But we don't listen, right? So I think just have it like a formal day, like their anniversary or their birthday or something, and take them out for a nice dinner and over coffee and dessert, and say, I always want to ask you something, you know, like, what's my worst negative quality, you know? And then you might encourage them to take some time to reply, because this can tend to go on into a long list. And you can say, you don't have to tell me tonight, honey, you know, let's just go home. It was a nice dinner. And think about it for 3 or 4 days. And then, you know, make a list and scratch out all the other ones. And tell there's one negative quality left that you would most like, you think I have the biggest problem with. So to get an honest answer, like we were doing yoga, we went and taught at the Shivananda Center in Bahamas. It's the oldest center in North America. And so afterwards I asked, we have a yoga teacher there who teaches us every day for 2 hours. And then the whole class, it's an advanced class there, and they do once a year. And then I asked him at the end, I said, what do you have suggestions for me? You know, I got this idea I read the autobiography of Martha Graham. I like Martha Graham, you know. She lied about her age. She was 95 when she wrote her autobiography, and she was still dancing. And Jackie Kennedy edited it for her. And she died writing it. The autobiography stops in the middle of a sentence, you know. And but there's two things that inspire me. One is that the first time she did a modern dance recital, all of her patrons, all the people who had supported her dance, they came up and they said, "Martha, when are you going to stop this idiocy? You know, what is this? You know, like when are you going to stop this idea of modern dance? It's so stupid, you know, and it makes you look so bad." And she said, "When nobody comes, I'll stop." You know, so she had this courage to do it her whole life. Now everybody says she was a genius, right? So there's a story in there that Nuria came to dance for her. And you know, he's the greatest ballet dancer of his time. And she tells this story that after the performance, she was driving him back to Kennedy Airport, and he turns to her with a piece of paper and he hands it to her and he says, "Tell me what I did wrong. Make me a list of what I need to improve." You know? And I was doing that with my yoga teacher. I gave him a piece of paper. I said, "Make me a list of things I can improve." You know? And he was just taken aback. Nobody asked me that. And who is Nuria to ask what he could improve? You see? And if you ask someone that you really believe in, and if you ask honestly, you can become the greatest mental affliction fighter in the world. You see? You can become the Beowulf of mental affliction fighters. You know? Like that. No, I mean, you can make a name for yourself. You know? This is the idea. Like, have the courage and have the strength and the honesty to seek out your weaknesses and ask your friends. You know, don't praise me for what I'm doing right. Tell me what my weaknesses are, and then you will become like Nuria. I think then you will become like the best in the world. So our job is not to become the best dancer or the best yoga exercise person. Our job is to become the person with the cleanest mind in the world, the happiest mind in the world. You know, can you rid your own mind of your negativities? So ask your partner. You know, be brave and ask your partner from time to time, what's my worst quality, and then work on it and fight with it. Right? There's another interpretation of this verse, right? Everybody has the same worst emotion. We say in Buddhism that, you know, I could go to each person here and say, "I know that you have a jealousy problem," or "I know you have an irritation problem," or "I know you tend to get angry," or "You have a problem with food, you desire food," or "You desire maple-covered donuts," or some great sin like that. You know, you could go to each person and say, guess at what their worst quality is, right? Without ever meeting them. But there's a worst negative emotion that we all share. There's one that we all have. And it is the gang leader of all the other ones. You see? So I can tell you, without ever having talked to you, without ever having met you, I can already tell you what your worst one is. You didn't ask me, but I'm giving free advice. It's not understanding that things are coming from yourself. You see? And we all share that. We all share the same one. Okay? And it's the ringleader. If you want to make your mind happy, if you want to make your relationship pure and successful and something holy, right? If you want to use your relationship with your partner to reach higher places, then work on this one emotion first. You know? Work on your sense or your feeling that your partner's coming from their side and not from what you're doing. You see? We all have this kind of misunderstanding in our mind. Something came up during the break. They said, I have a problem with my partner, blah, 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 blah. I said, just stop. Don't tell me, okay? Whatever the problem is with your partner, you stop doing it. It's the hardest advice to give anyone, right? It's the hardest advice to receive. if karma is true, and it is, right? If the world is a production of how we have treated other people, right? If every detail of your life is being driven by what you've done to other people, you could be your own marriage counselor, right? You can be your own relationship counselor. You don't even need to talk to your partner. You don't even have to ask them what your worst quality is. Okay? This is the deeper one, okay? Just look around you and see what's the most irritating thing in your world. You know, what's the one thing in your world which is most painful? What's the one thing about your partner which is most difficult for you? Right? That's an answer for you of what you are doing. You see? Because we believe every quality of your partner is being produced by your own behavior. You see? If your partner is irritating in yoga class, it means you must be irritating in yoga class. Okay? Pick your worst, pick the thing about your partner which annoys you the most, and 100% you can be sure that it's something you are doing all the time. And that's an automatic answer for you, right? Then you can fix your partner, you can repair your partner. You can slowly make your partner perfect. You can slowly remove all the imperfections in your partner. How? Whatever bugs you, stop doing it to them. Whatever bugs you, stop doing it to them. You don't have to talk to them, you don't have to reason with them, you don't have to convince them of anything. You don't need to go anywhere and have a discussion with some counselors or anything. Whatever you don't like, stop doing it yourself. The karma will reverse. The karma will be stopped. By the karma of attempting not to do something anymore yourself changes your partner. You remove inequality from your partner by removing it from yourself, because it's coming from you. Right? So on top of all of this, the key to everything is to understand that it's coming from you. And then the rest flows automatically. Okay? So just understand that everything you see is coming from you. Anything you see in another person which is not perfect is exactly what you're doing to them in some way. So find what you're doing, admit what you're doing, change what you're doing, and there will be this miraculous transformation in the other person. You don't have to talk to them, you don't have to reason with them, you don't have to have any kind of fights, you don't have to lay any ambushes. Just be good yourself. Stop doing what you don't like in them. And then suddenly your partner becomes a completely different person. Because you have changed. This is the most precious thing we can teach you. That all the things you see are coming from yourself. As you sow, so shall you reap. And that's the great wisdom taught by Jesus. Of which this place was, for whom this place was built, right? So whether or not you're on that path, it doesn't matter. The truth is there. And the truth has been repeated over and over by people over the generations. Whatever you don't like, stop doing it to other people. And then your life will slowly become perfect. And your relationship will become perfect. And that's a precious wisdom to have. So, that's the big guy in the other game. Remember that one. Then the rest will flow from that.
I remember several years ago when, I don't know, one of our very, very close friends burst in the room one day and said, I got it. I got my worst mental affliction. It's this, you know? And then she went from person to person. It's this, isn't it? It's this, isn't it? And we were all like, you know, not saying a word. And, you know, if you're really practicing this, you won't get much response in your partner because what did we just talk about? They're supposed to see you totally purely. So why would they ever tell you that you even had a fault in the first place? So the second option is always better. Just look at the mirror and see what it's telling you. So we're going on to page 7, which is the last thing we'll do tonight. Se tunpa, gyurla, ramsor shak. Change your mind and stay the same. So, I love this one. I really, really love this one. And this is about hidden practice. Hidden practice. I learned this practice when I was about 6 years old at Easter time. And my school had us make these paper baskets with paper flowers in them for a gift for our loved ones, right? And so normally I give everything to my mom. Like that, she was just like the standard, I love you, Mom, here's my next arts and craft project at school. And so I was constructing it very carefully, as a 6-year-old always does, to make these little paper flowers out of this little paper basket. And I still remember the colors, it was like green and blue and yellow, and I was very, very fond of this. And so the teacher at the end of our construction project said, okay, instead of giving it to somebody that you know and getting credit for it, here's what you're going to do. This Easter, you're going to leave it for somebody anonymously. And we're like, what does anonymously mean? And so then the teacher explains, she's like, well, that means that you give it to somebody and they don't know you've done it. Like, it's a kindness that you do for somebody and they don't even know. And this was like mind-blowing to me. I was like, wow, that's so cool. I'm going to like do this secret thing. So I go home, and because I'm not giving it to my mom, I could tell her the plan. I said, Mom, I have to give this to somebody, and I don't know how to do it, and who should I give it to? And we decided together that I would give it to my next-door neighbor, who is this old lady who lived by herself. And so we made this plan that I would go, and I would leave the basket on her doorstep and ring the bell, and then run really, really fast back to my house before she opened the door, And I did it. And I never knew if she knew. I think she suspected it was me. Because I was like the only kid on the block. But as a 6-year-old, I thought it was pretty smart. And I didn't realize that she wouldn't know that she would figure it out. So in my little 6-year-old mind, I actually did an anonymous good deed, So I got a taste for this practice at age 6. And the idea of, this part of your crazy yogi behavior is that inside, you're this really amazing secret yogi practitioner who knows everything about karma and emptiness and can just look through the illusion that is the world and see right to the cause beneath, to see right to the karmic cause beneath. And you're doing it all day long with every single thing that comes up in your mind. But outside, you look like a totally normal person. Outside, you're like talking and laughing with your friends and just acting totally normal, and they have no idea that you have this view of the world going on at the very same time, that you are pretending to be a totally normal person. And there's many, many stories about this in the Buddhist tradition, about secret yogis who spent their whole life as a clerk in a coffee house and nobody knew. Okay, maybe it wasn't a coffee house, but, the modern day, it would be like a coffee house, and they are behind the counter, and they spend 20 years doing the same job, and everybody thinks they're kind of a loser for not getting a better job. And like, inside, they're perfecting their mind. Inside, they're becoming more and more realized and more powerful, and they're just keeping everything hidden. They've got this great practice, and they're keeping it all hidden. And at night, angels are coming to their room and like asking them for advice, and nobody knows. You know, for everybody else, they're just a normal coffee clerk. And then one day somebody blows it and like a big, huge, high Tibetan Lama comes to this coffee clerk and bows down at their feet and everybody's like, what's going on? You know, what's going on? It's just our friend, Joe, the coffee clerk, you know, he's kind of a loser. Like, why is that big, high Rinpoche Tibetan Lama bowing at his feet? Well, there's a reason. You know, there's a reason. And this is what you want to be like as a crazy yogi, lojong practitioner. When you're training your mind, you don't want to be advertising it to every single person that you know. Why? Well, it makes it a lot less powerful. It makes what you're doing a lot less powerful. For one, you start to do things for the wrong reasons, perhaps. You know, you do things to, like, oh, I just went and worked at a soup kitchen, and aren't I so cool because I'm so kind and I give to other people. You know, it's like, it would be better if you just didn't tell anybody where you were yesterday. You know, it would be better if you just kept your good deeds to yourself. Because then you wouldn't be doing it for the accolades of all your friends and all your family. You know, you wouldn't be doing it for the wrong reasons. And then the karma is pure. You know, the karma is pure. So then the second reason that, and this is an even more important reason why you'd want to have a hidden practice. It's an acknowledgement of the fact, it's like an act of truth actually, that you can change the entire world simply by purifying your own mind. You can change the entire world simply by purifying your own mind. So you don't have to talk about it. And you don't have to advertise it. And you can actually just have this quiet little practice inside where every single second you're looking around and you're seeing karmic causes coming at you. And you're analyzing them, and you're moving your behavior to fix your world, slowly and surely. And you're like a scientist, but outside, nobody knows you're doing it. So, there's no need to tell your partner about, there's no need to be in your Moroccan restaurant in Paris and start discussing whether or not you're talking to me, and there's no need to talk to them about how you're actually going to fix that for real. You know, you just do it. You just do it. And outside, you're a normal partner. Even if your partner is also another practitioner, even if your partner is trying to practice the same way as you still don't have to advertise it to them. You still keep your own secret practice. And, the highest practice that you can do as a partner is to see your partner as a holy being, right? We talked about that earlier. So, you do these little things like secret acknowledgement of their angelness, right? And you don't let them know that you're doing it. You're at dinner, and you drop the fork on purpose, right? So that you can secretly bow down to them as you're getting the fork. And they don't know. I mean, if they're enlightened, of course they know. Of course they know. You don't have to advertise it. So it's like an act of truth that they are, in fact, an enlightened being. Because they know what you're doing already, you know? So then you take your first bite of food and you're looking at them and you're just pretending to be the normal partner and you're like, I offer you total bliss with this first bite of food, you know, and you take the bite and you're like secretly, you're just offering every good thing to this holy angel in front of you. But you're not saying a word. You're talking about the weather. Or you're talking about, I don't know, the airline stewardess. And they say something, or they do something, and immediately you take it as a sign of where your life should go next. You know, and but you don't have to tell them about it. I'm going to tell you about one. It's going to kind of blow the secret, but This is an example, right? Just like any little small thing your partner does is a message to you. And you just take it as that divine message, and you run with it, and you don't look back, and you don't have to talk about it at all. So, I'll give you an example. We went to San Pancho, Mexico for our last retreat. And it was really beautiful, and we were like very, very close to the beach. And when we got back, we were sort of talking about maybe one day taking all of our students down there to Mexico. Maybe, and it seemed like a couple of years away, the way that we were talking about it. And then Geshe Michael puts a desktop picture of a surfer girl right on his computer, And I said, it's a sign. It's a sign. All the students, we got to go to the beach, So it was like this message to me that, no, it's not going to be in a couple of years, it's going to be now. So a couple people just, I don't know, when did you go? Like a couple weeks ago. They got back from San Pancho, and we're actually going to have our next Tibetan Heart Yoga series down in San Pancho, Mexico, right? Because of Geshe Michael's desktop picture. And that's the way it happens. And that's the way that holy beings guide you. And they know what's going to happen they know what's going to click in your mind when they do these very simple things, like put a picture in front of your face. That was a rather obvious one. I mean, there are more subtle ones, and you have to figure it out for your own partner. What signs they're telling you. They could do the strangest things that lead you to the strangest places, and trust it, believe in it. It's more powerful if you trust it and don't speak of it and just jump, right? Don't ask them, were you giving me a sign when you put that desktop picture on your computer? They'll say no. They will say no. They'll be like, no, of course not. You can't believe them. It's better just not to mention it. It's better just to trust it, right? It's more powerful to keep it in inner practice. So, one of our yoga teachers in New York City, Sri Dharma Mitraji, we were in his class the other day, and it was amazing because he was talking about this very same thing. He said, outside you're just a normal person going to work and coming home, and then one day, you'll open your shirt and you'll realize you've got a big S right on your chest, It was like, savior of the world, like Superman, savior of the world. And that's our job, really. That's our job. We're like secret saviors of the world. We're like secret Supermen, hiding in our Clark Kent guises. And because that's much more effective most of the time. You can reach many more people looking like a normal person. And the more you start to do this, the more you start to realize that perhaps every other person around you is doing it too. And that's really wild. That's really wild. And you can never trust anybody's appearances. You can never trust who's sitting right next to you, that they might not be some secret tantric yogi. And going through the world like that is a joy.
We believe to talk about these things, especially to talk about the fact that things are coming from ourselves, is a very holy karma. And then the best way to keep the karma is to give it away, right? So there's a special prayer the Tibetans do to give away good karma. So we all together, we made a big good karma. And to keep it, we have to give it away. So Amma Christine will sing a special prayer. If you know the prayer, do the prayer. If you don't know the prayer, you can do what I did in the monastery for many years. You just oh, and then put your hands out. It's like you're making a gift of the karma. Amma Christine will sing this song.
See you tomorrow.